Today on Locked On Red Wings, Ivan Provorov is a proven minute munching defenseman, but should he be a top priority for the Detroit Red Wings this offseason?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Scotty, we are bringing another signing free agent hypothetical to the people today, and that is in the name of left shot defenseman Ivan Provorov. He's 28 years old. He's 6'1". He's 201 pounds. We're going to spend the first couple segments talking about him before finishing up with how do you feel about it Friday. We don't do a lot of these days, and it's kind of been a slow finish to the week news-wise with the Cup final being over. So going back to Provorov, like I said, 28 years old, left shot defenseman. Played big minutes with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and indications point towards him testing the free agent market coming up here on July 1st. When you're looking at Ivan Provorov and the set of skills that he brings to a defensive core, do you feel that this is a guy who the Red Wings should prioritize when looking to add to their defensive core?
Right, and I think that wording is important, and you mentioned this off air, before we hit record, and obviously, given how the blue line looked last year, adding a player of this caliber is something that would be welcomed, right? I think the wording is important, that you make sure to emphasize, should it be a priority? Should a player like this be a high priority for the Wings? He's had a really unique, I guess I'll call it, like career on the ice in terms of, like, I remember when he was with Philly in his second or third year maybe in the NHL, there was a Flyers team that, kind of like the tail end of the peak Giroux years where they put up, 97, 98, 100 points. And he was really young and was a prominent part of that blue line. And there was kind of a belief that would be, the future of the Flyers blue line and kind of the future, honestly, of that division would be like kind of that core. And then, when Giroux ages out, then you kind of figure it out from there. And not to say he like fell off a cliff or was terrible, but he certainly hasn't done anything really even remotely close to what he did in that season. That year, he almost had a 2020 season, 17 goals, 24 assists. Again, was playing in a lot of different situations, whereas now still has the versatility of playing in situations, but hasn't reached double-digit goals since before COVID. So, I think that he has really settled in as a defensive-minded defenseman. He's not going to provide too much for you offensively. And is that something that the Wings should prioritize? Probably, in terms of profile. I'm just not 100% certain that he specifically needs to be the top priority of the offseason either.
Yeah, and that's, kind of why we do it. We phrase things like that too, because if I were to come on here and ask, does he fit? We're so bereft of defensive depth that of course he fits. The question being, should be top priority? There's a conversation to be had there. I don't think he should be a top priority, because I think their top priority should be Vladislav Gavrikov. But Ivan Provorov is a nice plan B if you miss out. And I want to give credit to, again, Dom Luszczyszyn of The Athletic. He had a nice write-up on the top free agents, defensive free agents. And he mentioned, this is a guy who you sign, he is going to play a lot of minutes. He averaged 23 minutes this last year. You could put him on the penalty kill. You can put him on the power play. He's going to be good wherever you put him, but he won't be great. And so that's where, if you're the Detroit Red Wings, you're like, okay, we need to make a big splash. He's not a big splash, but he does make you substantially better. Adding Provorov, you think about, we talk about the ripple effect every single year, right? What's the ripple effect of Ivan Provorov? Getting him to play on your second pair on the left side, what does that mean for Simon Edvinsson? Well, that means you can put him on your top pair. That means you have a reliable second pair defenseman for your second pair, and now you can have Simon Edvinsson and Moritz Seider together, giving you a domineering top pair. And now let's say, okay,
What?
the depth.
What was the word?
Domineering top pair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I genuinely, I thought you said, my brain was like, oh, he's gonna say dominant, and then you didn't, and it just like didn't click in my head.
I thought maybe I said a word that had a different definition. I got scared for a second.
No, not at all.
But okay, so if you're still concerned about the depth, right, you could put Provorov with Seider. Dom does mention in his article too that Provorov did play very difficult minutes, and it's backed up by the Dauber usage chart too with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He played a lot of defensive zone minutes, freeing up Werenski to play a lot more offensive zone minutes.
Right.
So that that gives them. You could play him with Seider. I do think it would not benefit Provorov to give him Seider level minutes, because he also mentions in his excerpt that he did not get Seider level deployments. It was tough, but not Seider level difficult. So I think you're better served by signing him, having him on your second pair, letting you put Seider and Edvinsson back together. That is, I think, the ideal if you sign him. But it's just that if you miss out on Vladislav Gavrikov, because Gavrikov has higher upside, I feel, than Provorov at this point. But we do know, like you previously noted, Provorov did score 17 goals at one point in his career. Now, granted, that was the second year of his season, and he hasn't touched it since. He's been pretty healthily in the 30-point range, but that's still good production. That's second pairing production out of Ivan Provorov. Like, this is a guy who is going to give you flexibility in your lineup and going to be able to eat minutes, and he's only 28 years old. Like, this is a guy who's likely going to age well. Now, he doesn't throw a lot of hits. I think he only had like 26 hits.
28.
In the 28 hits.
But like,
again,
that's I didn't mean to cut you off, but like,
no, you're good.
To the point I made earlier, like in that 17 goal season, he had 148. Like, it's so wild that he, again, like I have family who are, like big Flyer fans, and it's so interesting, having conversations back then about kind of that young core, and there was a people thought he was going to be really, really good, man. Like how quickly we forget, like the expectations when he was just 20, 21, 22 years old were really, really high. And again, that's not to say that he's been like a bust or like he's had a terrible career or anything like that. Certainly not. But he was a 7th overall pick and got deployed as such early in his career. So I think, to your point, as far as what the priority should be for the Wings, I think it makes a ton of sense for them to go after, and that's why we're talking about him. It makes a ton of sense to go after a defensive-minded left side defenseman. Like that just makes a lot of sense because it gives you the flexibility, the flexibility that, well, the lineup card really needs going forward. But I think that there is, if you're expecting him to be that like bona fide top pair guy, you're probably going to be disappointed a little bit. You probably shouldn't pay him like that. But if you just want a guy that you can plug and play in the second pair, kind of raises the floor of the blue line, is just going to give you consistent, defensive play, not produce too much offensively. He's a decent quarterback still, but just like, there's not, you're not signing him to be a point producer. You're signing him to be sound defensively in your own zone.
Yeah, and there's the question too about what will he cost, and would he want to come here too? Because of, again, we talk about the flexibility it gives you because he can play in any situation. Does he have the rules here? And I think that's going to be a big question mark too. So we'll talk about that in segment 2 of Lockdown Red Wings. So stay tuned. There's nothing like playoff hockey, the energy, the rivalries, the non-stop action. I miss it already, although the Calder Cup final is still going on. With the Stanley Cup playoffs coming to an end, there's never been a better time to see it live, and Game Time makes getting into the building fast and affordable. Let's just twist that and say AHL playoffs. The Calder Cup playoffs are still going on. Gotta update the copy here. Game Time gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ticket prices often drop the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without overpaying. Game Time offers you zone deals, which save you a ton. They pick the best seats at the lowest price, and they did that for me at the Stadium Series. I got a seat that was listed at 1 percentile in affordability. It was one of the best deals in that section. And the zone deals are now offering 10% off exclusive for FIFA Club World matchups. And you can see that exact seat view with the panoramic view, and the ticket coverage guarantee covers you if you get cancellations, job loss, and even 24-hour returns. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, so obviously this is the part of the show where we talk about what it might cost to get him, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised to see that he's not gonna break the bank, and I think that makes sense given everything we just said, right? He's a guy who can play in all situations, but he's good, not necessarily great at all of those. You know, he is exactly a 50th percentile overall, by the way, on Evolving Hockey, exactly 50th percentile. 46 offense, 43 defense. He's like just straddling the line between positive and negative on every category. It's actually really funny. But this is a guy that, according to Evolving Hockey, the highest likelihood is that he signs a 5-year deal at around $6.7 million. And the 6.7 maybe is a touch high for what I'd like, but with the cap rising, I think that's probably the range these guys are going to go to on free agency. I think the 5-year deal is the part that makes me most, I think it's a fine deal. I don't think you're overpaying too badly for a guy that we've just explained that's going to be his role. 5 years, 28 years old. He's out of here by age 33. I think that's a fine deal. I'd take it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I think if you had to say, like, critique it, you would say that maybe the AAV is a tad high, but
it's a touch high, yeah.
I think in general that's probably around what he's going to want and probably what he goes for. I mean, you mentioned it. I think the best thing that he has going for him is his age as he hits the open market and as the cap rises, right? So like he's a guy that is really set up kind of perfectly to enter free agency at the right time for him, personally. So yeah, like the fact that you can sign him to a 5-year deal and not really have to worry about like a massive steep decline, like at any point, right? Like, I mean, there's risk that comes with, you can sign a 21-year-old and they could fall off at 24. Like anything can happen in sports, but like in theory, because he's not a high skill, like offensive defenseman either, like you feel pretty good about him being consistent with his production over those 5 years, given his age as well. So yeah, I think that's probably fairly accurate, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yes, the 6.7 is a touch higher than I'm comfortable with, but I think that's just me not adjusting to the market yet. It's just, I think we're going to see we saw some crazy contracts handed out last season, but now that the cap's actually rising, this season's going to be, this offseason rather, is going to be a lot more jarring for sure. So we'll see how it plays out in that regard. But the other problem too is like, would he want to come here? And I wonder about the role, right? The availability. Because obviously, if you offer him a contract, he's going to want to come here. A contract that he will, is competitive, I should say. But it's about the one, where is this team at a spot where you're going to attract a free agent like that, but also is the role available for him that he's going to want? This is a guy who's used to playing in all situations. The minutes are there at 5-on-5. I think the minutes are there on penalty kill because Seider, Edvinsson.
I agree.
It's the power play that I think is going to be a tough sell, and it just comes down to, and this is where we're not mind readers, right? We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know like what Provorov's process is, but
right. But like, I mean, is he really going to look and be like, oh, I'm not going to play power play, but I'll play in every other situation, so I'm not signing with you? Like that seems. And in terms of like team situation, he signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets 2 years ago. Like that, I don't think there's too much hesitation of like, oh, like, I need to be. He signed a multi-year deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets in 2023. Like they had like 65 points that year. I think Yeah.
That was also the offseason, though, that they signed Johnny Gaudreau, and I think there's a little bit of an allure to be like, oh, they just got this star, and so they're building towards something real. Which, if you're the Red Wings, you can make the same argument for sure, right? You have Lucas Raymond.
Right.
Obviously, Gaudreau is coming off at a crazy high season where he
For
scored
sure.
like
I'm
100
just
plus
saying,
points.
like,
But
the year before that, the Blue Jackets were they not the worst, one of the worst teams in all of hockey? Like,
I mean,
I don't think
there's
anyone thought it was
there's
going
an
to be like an overnight thing. That's all.
there's an every other year chance that they're one of the worst teams in hockey.
Right. Well,
It's
fair.
Columbus Blue Jackets.
I guess my point is just like I don't really think, I don't know. He's signed with far worse teams, so
That's
I
a
don't
fair
know
point.
if that's going to be a huge factor. But also, like, if this is his long-term deal, maybe that is more of a factor. We don't know the guy. Like like you said, we don't have a crystal ball. I'm not sure what he values and what he doesn't. But I mean, based on career history, I have a hard time believing that's going to be too big of a factor.
Yeah, and to your point, right, Scotty? I mean, this last year, this is a guy who does have experience quarterbacking a power play, but this last year he only played 78 minutes on the power play because he played on a team with Zach Werenski. So clearly he is okay playing. I mean, he still was every situation player. Like, I'm making it out to be a bigger issue than it is. He's going to get plenty of penalty kill time in Detroit. He's going to get plenty of 5-on-5 time in Detroit. There's a lot of top 4 minutes to go around because they're desperate. So
for the record, his career high in a single season in average time on ice was the 2018-19 Flyers when he had 25:07. This past year, he was at 23:21. So, like, obviously that's, probably that difference. Like, that's probably over the course of a season, the difference between getting like power play one time and not getting too much power play time at all. Outside of that, he's been in pretty much every other situation throughout his career. And I really, we can argue about unit 1 or unit 2, but I don't think that it would be too much different in Detroit.
Well, I just keep thinking, too, about the depth, right? If you get a guy like Provorov or Gavrikov, right, who's your number one option, number one guy you're pursuing, I should say, number one priority. I mean, that immediately makes it so you can knock Ben Sherratt down to the third pair, which Ben Sherratt he is what he is. Like, his underlying metrics on the top pair were awful, but he was over-deployed. I think Ben Sherratt on the third pair, helping to shelter the young players that are coming up through the system, I think that'd be a fantastic role for him. And on his final year of his career, I think he'd be good in that role. And your left side is going to be looking then Edvinsson, Provorov, Sherratt. That is a much better left side just with that one extra body thrown in there. So, I mean, left side D, we've talked about it, is a huge need. Right side D, to a lesser extent, because you do have ASP in the pipeline, but you could still use another right shot D. In the end, you need a top 4 defenseman, and this is a guy who is going to be a top 4 defenseman probably until the end of his contract. Right. Like, he's just a minute muncher. So, he's not the top priority, but he would be a nice fit. I would definitely be all right with signing him, especially at the cap that he has projected to sign at. So that's all I got on Ivan Provorov. I think we've gotten to the end of that.
Yeah.
All right. We'll head to segment 3. We'll do a little bit of how do you feel about a Friday. So stay tuned to that. Segment 3 coming up. All right, Scotty, we haven't done this in a while. It's been a minute, since we've done How Do You Feel About It Friday. Actually, didn't we do it last week? Did we do it last week?
Well, we did like one question just to like talk Tigers as an excuse to do that. I'm not sure it was like a real one, but
yeah, I think this is the first like real dedicated How Do You Feel About It Friday segment in a long time. And I think that what that is to tell about where we are at in the offseason in reality. Because when we're in season, we're so busy with Red Wings news and content. We never have time to slow down and have a little bit of a more chill segment. And, come to think of it, how do you feel about Tarek Skubal going 5 2/3 in the first half of the doubleheader? Because we are recording between the games.
We are. It's either that or wait until after game 2 and have a long night for yours truly. I don't think anything of that. I don't really care. They won 9-2, and it was pouring rain. I don't really care. He's the best in the world. You give yourself a chance for a sweep now, which is nice. I really wanted the Skeens versus Skubal matchup, but
we all did.
at the end of the day, that's a series win. Like no matter what happens, Skeens could throw a perfect game, series win. So that's really all I care about at the end of the day. And now they've given themselves a chance to at least they're going to bullpen game it. Pittsburgh's offense is quite literally the worst in all of baseball. So like Paul Skeens has lost more games than he's won. He has a 1.7 ERA and he's 4-6 on the season because that's how bad the Pirates offense is. So like, you score one run, and you gotta have a chance because the Pirates are that bad. So I could not care less about Skubal. Like again, it was pouring rain for the first like 2 or 3 innings. The game was delayed as well. Like I don't. He only gave up one run. Like if that's as bad as it gets, he's the best on the planet.
He gave up 2 runs, Mister.
Great, dude.
He's cooked. No, I think it's incredible, Scotty, that like he's on such another level that he goes 5 2/3 and gives up 2 runs, which by all accounts is not a bad performance. That we're like, that's a bad performance. That's how above everyone else is. Like if Jack Flaherty goes out there, does 5 2/3 in the rain and 2 earned runs, we're like, yeah, that was a pretty good start, all things considered. But with Skubal, I mean, he even said it himself, like he was not happy with his own performance. So the guy's a machine, dude. He's incredible. Anyways, you're up.
How do you feel about?
He's going to look around the room. This is an old Ethan trick.
How do you feel about Frosted Flakes?
Frosted Flakes?
Yeah.
Do you have a box of Frosted Flakes in your room right now?
I do.
Okay.
Full disclosure, when I was a toddler, my family went to the Kellogg's like factory museum thing, and this is like 2000.
People are tuning out by the second here.
Like 2002 or something. You could go and like get your picture taken and then have it put on a Frosted Flakes box. And so my whole life on my desk, I've had a picture of me and my family on a Frosted Flakes box.
You can't tell that story and then not show us the box. You understand that, right?
It's in like a in-case thing.
That's actually great. That is actually fantastic. But does the box have cereal in it?
No. Of course not.
I was going to say that'd be mega stale.
25 years old? 24 years old? No.
But my thoughts on Frosted Flakes, good cereal. Not in my top 5, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, not in my top 5 either, to be honest. But
dude, Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
It's
Reese's
number
Puffs?
1-1. It's easily 1-1.
No. Where's Reese's Puffs?
So to be honest, I love Reese's Puffs. I also haven't had Reese's Puffs in probably over a decade.
I haven't had any cereal in at least 5 years. Like, I'm a grown up now.
Okay, well,
I don't eat breakfast.
You're so cool, dude. What a hero.
Great question, by the way. Wonderful anecdote.
Thanks.
How do you feel, Scotty, about Connor McDavid's comments today at the exit media availability when they asked him about his contract extension?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I think emotions are high for Connor McDavid right now, and I think Edmonton would be willing to give him just about any price tag he wanted. So No, please.
I was going to say there's not many better situations to be in than in Edmonton right now. I mean, granted, any team that kind of has Connor McDavid, it's a really good situation to be in. So he makes every situation a good situation. But I mean, that's a team that's so close that I feel like it'd be silly not to stay. But at the same time, like, I mean, they have massive holes they need to have filled. We just talked about it yesterday. So if he doesn't see that getting addressed, yeah, maybe he'll look elsewhere. But the thing is, like, anything he would have said would have been so dissected. And so the moment he said the quote, with that being said, that's like saying but. And so everyone, the moment he said that, was going to be like, McDavid's leaving Edmonton? Is he going to be leaving Edmonton next year? Which, by the way, I'm totally in favor of, just because it would be tremendous content. We would probably get like 3 weeks worth of content about trying to get Connor McDavid to come to the city of Detroit. He wouldn't come, but we could try.
I'm down, honestly.
He'd get $20+ million on the open market, I'm convinced. Marner's going to get 14 plus this year, probably.
I think I agree with you.
With the cap going up again and him being who he is.
Get 20 mil.
I think you get 20 mil. I think you get 20
mil. That's so crazy, dude. I think you get 20. I really do.
He's such a good player, man. Oh.
Man, 20 mil is so... That's just so... Like, in the context of hockey, that's just so wild.
Now put that in the context of baseball.
Right. Yeah, that's, you know. Alex
How much is
Thompson
Shohei?
15 this year. He's down in single A. He can't walk.
He's got injections in both hips.
Right.
So maybe give him Patrick Kane's doctor. God, come on.
Yeah.
Or just retire. Isn't he like 37?
We don't even have to. There was a rumor that he was going to retire. Then the Tigers offered him 15 mil.
Wild.
How do you feel about? Okay. Honestly. Okay. So this is a take that one of my best friends on the planet has, and we get into an what?
Oh, it was one of your friends, I'm sure. Yeah, not you.
I don't have friends, so I'm making up.
No, he's from Canada. You wouldn't know him.
You wouldn't know. He goes to a different school. And so we've had this argument for years, okay? And every time it comes up, there's like 3 reoccurring arguments we always have. And one of them is he believes that he loves sports just like me, but he believes that sports should not regulate performance-enhancing drugs and that it should be a complete free-for-all because he wants to see what a human is like physically capable of when pushed to, you know, like when given anything and anything that could possibly help you on the ice or on the court, on the field, whatever. And I adamantly disagree. But I met someone else today that agreed with him. And we weren't even talking about it. They were just like, yeah, like I think like steroids should just be a thing. And I was like, there's no way you agree with my friend that's been saying this for, you know, the better part of 9 years. So I because this just happened in my life today, I'm curious your thoughts. You don't have to be like pro steroid. Like I'm not asking you to say that, but like I think that there is the point is more so just like if you truly just open the floodgates and made it an even playing field, like would that be the same thing as having it not like be completely eradicated too and whatever? I hate it, but that's an argument I have.
I think people who have that take are just more morbidly curious about like you said, the extent that people can go to rather than like actually wanting it. Because part of the reason why PEDs are banned is because of the toll it takes on the human body.
Correct.
Like a lot of these PEDs can mess you up. Like ever see these bodybuilders, and granted that's an extreme example, right? Like your pro athletes aren't using it to the
slippery
extreme
slope, right? Like that's always been my argument. Is like eventually, like that's that's just like dangerous for the human body.
But at the same time, players are constantly finding ways to skirt around the rules to you know. I mean, there's an argument you could be made that some of the insane painkillers they take are performance enhancing drugs too, because I mean, how are these players playing through a torn, the hip torn off your body like Matthew Tkachuk was? Like, that's not au natural. There's drugs flowing through the body to help you mitigate that pain.
Well, even like the like cortisone shots and whatnot, they're like open about it. They're like, yeah, I just got a shot in the back and came back out. Like, you know, so I think I think it's a slippery slope. B, I think it's you know, I don't think it has as much to do with like the deep thought of like the long-term effects on the human body. I think it's more so just like, again, kind of just like, I want to see how good everybody can get if everybody just cheated. And
like to an extent, I see the point. I just think I think no.
Right.
No.
I think
probably not a good idea.
But like I at least follow like the logic of what they're trying to portray. I just agree with it.
Right. But yeah, Scotty, anything else?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode on Monday. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team
every
every
day.
day.